Hello. Thank you for joining us for BIM Talk, August edition, year 2020. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I am your presenter for today. My name is Labake Molara Ekundayo. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a Nigerian. I finished my architectural education from Kyiv National University of Construction and Architecture, Kyiv, Ukraine. I'm an architect and BIM coordinator. I've worked in the last 15 years in the sector in different roles with different construction companies. And as I move from the role of traditional architectural design to more of a BIM coordinator role, I still have my hands in the architectural design. So it's been very exciting in the sector. So thank you all for joining us. The topic of our discussion today is digital trends in construction. We really want to know why we are here. Why is this a cause of concern for all of us? We will be talking about construction digital trends in different flavors. And we will want to touch on how information communication technology is digitizing information in the built environment. In other words, it's helping us to organize and communicate building information. There is change around us. There's massive growing that's driven by the huge technological trends. And this is impacting the way we live, the way we travel, the way we do things, the way we interact with digital media. Take digital media, for instance, that you can take photos on your smartphone these days, as opposed to using your Polaroid camera. While this change is visible in some countries and some industries like your manufacturing and your hospitality industry, it's only now that the construction sector is taking the best advantage of this. Then there's a big drive for digitization by the European Commission and the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum, they are talking about it, writing about it, but the European Commission first primary objective was to digitize their market. And this has to do with smart city, smart economy. But then they found out that they are not competitive in the global market. And then their labor needs to be more productive to be relevant in the global market. They have to be more productive. They have to do less for more for less. To be more productive is to work smarter as opposed to working harder. So all these trends are to make our life easier. Like the building information technology, they are to make our life easier. Digitization will help us to work smarter. Coupled with that, we have so many drivers that are driving the change in the sector. The aging population, the urbanization, people are constantly moving from rural areas to cities. This huge population needs communication, they need housing, they need rails, roads, they need access to power and water, and it's the responsibility of the architectural engineering community to provide for their livelihood. So we have a huge tasks in our hand, plenty of jobs, because we need to build houses and as fast as we can to meet the demand of the population. So there are other drivers like sustainability, the level of carbon dioxide in our environment. It's established that the construction sector contributes up to 40% of carbon in our environment. So the bid to reduce this one tops the agenda too. And the way we are connected across geographies right now, this is digitization. We are streaming live from Dublin across to Africa in Nigeria. This is a super agile way of working because we will no longer be limited to our geographical locations in order to participate in a construction project. So then we touch on the trends that's rocking the sector. The very first one is big data. What is big data? It's an historic data that's been accumulated in the past. We want to use this data to establish insights in order to better business operations by making some best informed decisions. But we have a couple of problems in the environment, in this built environment. Our data are in silos. They reside in different businesses, departments, and divisions in our heads as well. Coupled with that, the sector itself is highly fragmented. In other words, architects, engineers, project managers, asset owners, subcontractors, contractors, quantity surveyors, we are all often disconnected from one another. How then can we gather data across these groups of people to analyze and to process? The thing is, it's established that if we put interoperability in place, we'll be able to harness the benefits that big data has got for us in order to plan better. And one of the solutions is to have a unified single platform that will unite everybody together for us to have a clearer communication and a real-time access to data. And that is bringing efficiency before we go on construction site. It's going to help us to build better because of the sensors in the machines in the construction site that's giving data real time to the construction managers to be able to track on the idle and the active time as far as their project programming planning is concerned, even for them to choose the best mix of materials. So it's going to help us to operate better. It's helping people on the operation and maintenance phase of buildings and bridges by the sensors, the data gathering devices that can be put in buildings today to monitor their internal workings in terms of air conditioning, heating system. They can see how the level of carbon dioxide can be measured inside the building. So the next one we'll be talking about is Internet of Things. Internet of Things is simply network of devices and appliances together that can receive and send data. It can be as simple as a wireless cable connected to your meter to capture data. Insight will be established and action will take place on that data. Decision will be made. Very efficient in the industry as well. And in smart buildings is being used to automate process of building operation, to control building operations, like your energy usage, lighting, security, and so on and so forth. The facility management operative are even saying that this is helping asset reliability and performance. The next one we touch on is unmanned area vehicles, popularly known as drones. These are vehicles with no man on board. We know construction sites across the world, they depend on surveys and inspection of sites. So drone technology is helping them to survey job sites, helping the construction managers so that they can keep up to date with what's happening on the site remotely. And coupled with that, drone cameras, they do a quick site view. And this is very useful for land developers because it surveys a vast area amount of land in few minutes. So drone technology is bringing efficiency into the sector as well. The next one is your robotic technology. In this area, we talk about autonomous rovers. These are used for detailed site inspections because they can get to places that are very awkward or difficult, impossible for humans to get to. They go into the places to gather and send data back to the center. This actionable insight is established, then informed decisions are being made. So they're actually they're bringing efficiency in this regard too. How about a mechanical arm? These are used to automate highly repetitive tasks of laying bricks or tying rebar. And the talk right now about this technology is not whether we're going to be using them, but how to best incorporate them into our established processes and practices. Then how they will impact the job role, existing job roles, and the new skill set that will be required to work in such workflows as the sector become more automated. So we talk about artificial intelligence. This is ability of machine to wanting to learn like human. The uses is twofold. It makes the, predictions and to make better decisions. It works with patterns as well, establishes patterns, insight is established, then decision can be made. It's very useful in predictive design at a project planning stage. And subset of artificial learning, artificial intelligence is machine learning. Machine learning is the database side of artificial intelligence. It has a unique features of ability to establish, to use algorithm and computing power with the huge amount of data that's been fed into it to establish understanding and actionable insights for decisions to be made. And it's bringing efficiencies into the industry. The next one we'll be talking about is building information modeling. Building information modeling is a process of creating and managing digital information across project life cycles. It enables you to describe every aspect of your building digitally. This detailed description will now enable a collaborative information sharing platform to be used and to be automated across project stages. In other words, building information modeling is allowing a smoother collaboration with a constant supply of chain information across project stages to assess risks and vulnerabilities in a project. Building information modeling technology is our focus of talk today. So we'll be talking more about this as we go. So as all these trends are all around us, there is huge amount of data, hence growing need of information management expertise in this sector. So information communication technology is using BEAM to help us organize, communicate, and manage our information. But first of all, how do we thrive in the midst of these disruptions? Career-wise, we need to understand there's a trend in the sector. There's a digital trend in the sector. And the ability to position ourselves in a timely fashion is very crucial in order to move with the trends so as not to be left behind, because the high-skilled workers are needed to operate these complex machines, and even the workflow that they are incorporated into, you need a higher skill set to operate them. And thereby, these high-skilled workers, they are replacing the low-skilled workers. So in order not to be left behind, we really have to position ourselves and move with the trend. That's career-wise. Process-wise, we know BEAM is a process of creating, managing information digitally across project life cycle. This collected information in a database accessible by different actors. Someone has to police this information, coordinate the process of creation and collaborating and sharing this information. In other words, someone has to collaborate all the efforts of all the actors on board. Hence, the growing need of information management expertise. The advancement of digital workflows and technology is making the role of information management professionals more and more essential in the sector. So we really have to understand there's a shift right here. We need to move quickly, positioning ourselves and moving with the trend. Digitizing our information will help us to meet expectation, will help us in processes, outcomes, will help us to manage risks, communication between stakeholders, and to make better decisions. And not only that, it will impact the challenges that we are having in the construction industry, be it building economics or building quality, or as far as our procurement processes are concerned. So having said that, there's a report by McKinsey 2019 that if true digital transformation is in place, 14 to 15% productivity gains is realized, and 4 to 6% cost reduction. So as we move on, as the sector becomes more digitized, we want to really hone down what do we mean when we say BEAM, building information modeling. Some say it's a 3D card just for the engineers and the architects, but considering our workflow is very confusing, it's difficult to query, it's difficult to understand, hence the poor outcome that we get. And at industrial level, we have challenges of performance, quality issues, procurement issues. So we can see information is just at the center of everything that we do, all operations in the built environment. Then building information technology is a technology-driven process to produce information, to manage and to exchange information across project life cycle. And this is impacting the sector in a very big way, increasing efficiency, improving productivity, because there's a deeper understanding of information that we have, that's bringing reduction in different forms of waste of material, waste of labor. Is reducing the cost of construction and even the time of delivery of a project. So having said that, we want to go into each acronyms of BEAM to see how they relate to our information, how our information is produced and organized in the built environment. So the picture in front of us is the picture of where I live, Dublin in Ireland. It can be a picture of Victoria Island. It can be downtown Ikoyi side in Lagos. So from this picture, we can see the vertical structures, which are the buildings. They are not the only one that make the built environment. We can see bridges, roadways, waterways, utility networks, communication, transportation system. All this they are compasses to make the built environment. And behind each piece of infrastructure or built asset is a record. It's a record information at the moment that is analog, difficult to query, difficult to understand. So we can see the important role of information in operation, within the built environment. So the way we produce, manage, and exchange this information dictates the performance of a project or of a building, even of a project team. So clients are not, they are looking for the information that they pay for. They're looking for value. So we want to understand today that clients are not really looking for technicalities in BEAM, but they are looking for what BEAM can offer them in terms of their processes, how it will take them from paper-based format to an information that is easily accessible, easy to query, that will support their asset throughout the life cycle. And it's the responsibility of information management experts within the environment to support, come alongside the client, to support them, inform them, so that they can have a good outcome out of a BIM process. So that takes us to the information side. What information are we talking about? The picture in front of us is, equates the operation manual that's been given to a client at the end of construction. This device we see right here, we've done all the designing and everything on the computer. It ended up in PDF format and then printable formats like this. We can surely see that this information is it's not searchable, it's not accessible. It might not be accurate because it's produced by different actors at different times to end up this way. So we can see information is at the background of what we do in the built environment. So the way we communicate them, exchange them, it really matters. It dictates performance of building, not only the building, but the project team as well. So moving from there, we'll touch on, the research of Boston Consulting Group 2016 shows cost excess that's happening at a design and construction stage is between 13 and 21%. This is an excess. And between 10 to 17 in operational stage. So we're talking about information asset. We're comparing paper versus data, workflows. So we move on to the next acronym in BIM, modeling. How? What is this to us? Its ability to use 3D intelligent objects to build your 3D virtual model, a digital representation of the physical. So the 3D that we have in front of us right now, it drives the production of your 2D drawings. It has so many uses. You can exploit it for design options. Higher level of communication and collaboration in this environment. And these can be called paper-based alternative to paper-based information management, digital model object-based information, digital twin, project information model at capital delivery phase, asset information model at operational stage. So it's for better communication and better decision making. The ability to interchange those two words, management sometimes for modeling, is the fact that we want everybody to be able to identify with the BIM process. Because taking construction manager or a quantity surveyor, for instance, they might say, oh, I don't model anything, probably the process is not for me. Well, it's not so. If you could use building information management, then we are all there to manage this information. So with that said, we take the discussion a little bit in the direction of our workflows in terms of efficiency and productivity. So a workflow with no BIM. A workflow with no BIM is when you are describing your building or infrastructure in a separate, different ways. They are separately produced, separately managed. 2D documents, your drawings, your schedules, specification, they are separately produced. They are separated from one another. And the outcome, is full of inconsistencies. It's full of errors and omissions, which could lead to increase in request for information, and it could ended up, in rework. So this kind of workflow is outdated in digital age. We cannot continue to use this kind of workflow. The next workflow that we want to talk about, the BIM approach, is when is likened onto the manufacturing-like system, where you describe your buildings once through the intelligent 3D objects that has your design decisions embedded in them. Placeholder, these objects are placeholder for information about the building to build your 3D virtual model. And your 3D virtual model right now is the accurate representation of the physical. The objects will have the classification in them, embedded in them, manufacturer's details, the properties of that particular object. In this case, we are looking at the door, the performance of it, everything, all this information embedded in that object. And it's this object, like doors, windows, your walls, roofs, ceilings, that makes up your 3D virtual model. And this 3D virtual model would now drive all other uses that we want to do in this environment, like your 3D coordination. Because the objects, they have spatial coordination features. They can detect when other systems are going to interface with them. So your clash detection can be established at that stage. For sequencing, to establish your logistics, health and safety for 4D planning. For costing, when you plug these objects, these modules into a cost information, you can establish your project cost. And your analysis as well can be done, energy analysis, structural analysis for performance, to really hone down the best design option. And your 7D is for facility management, whereby your warranty and scheduling maintenance schedules can be incorporated all in the object. One thing is to take home right now, the 3D model is used it drives the production of your 2D drawings, your details and your schedules. They're not produced separately. That's what that workflow is doing. So seeing the two workflows side by side, we'll say, oh, they have the same output. So what's the difference? They are two different things, because in one, you put in your energy, effort once to produce your model. Whereas in the first workflow, you have to produce in different places. How about the change management? Change management in the BIM approach, when you change once, your change reflects in all other places. But the very first workflow, you have to go in manually and update your work in different places, and it's full of errors and consistency. The last workflow we'll be talking about is pseudo BIM. This is the least efficient way of working, and it's very prevalent in the industry because people finance or investment, cutting corners. So it's an act of describing your building separately produced, still separately managed, and you now use that information to put up a model. One thing is the information is still separated from that model. The model is not driving anything there. So those excesses, they are still in that process. So we can see that BIM approach way of working is the way forward in this digital age. It's the best workflow to abide with if you want to consider original effort in terms of rework, in terms of management and accuracy. And it's very important for information managers, like BIM managers, BIM coordinators, project managers, to know the difference between these workflows. So we're going to talk about terminologies a little bit. Level 2 BIM, the uses, dimensions, is very important for BIM managers to be able to delineate between these terminologies. Level 2 BIM is a level of maturity of adoption. So if you have level 0, you are using CAD, you're not using BIM at all. If you have level 1, you are using the mixed approach that we spoke about earlier on. It's a bit of CAD and a bit of BIM. If you're using level 2 BIM is ability of different disciplines to come forward. They use full BIM process to describe, to make their model, and they federate this in one common place, which is your civil site model, architectural, structural model, and even your supplier or services model. But they all come together to form one composite model called federated model. The level 3 level of BIM adoption that we have is level 3. We are not there yet. That's working in one particular model, but we're not there yet. So it's level 2 that's being used in the industry as we speak. So bringing all these models in one place, federated model is called. It will enable you to do 3D coordination because of the spatial coordination features on the digital objects in this environment. If you plug these objects to your project programming, like Primavera and Microsoft project, you will be able to establish your 4D sequencing. And if you plug this model into a cost information, you'll be able to establish your cost control or even do your accurate quantity takeoff with all those digital objects. And your performance analysis to really hone down, the right design option for that particular project. And 7D is attaching information that will be useful for the facility management operatives to use to continue to maintain and operate the assets. So it's very important for BIM managers, BIM coordinators, project managers to be able to delineate between uses, dimensions, and level of maturity of adoption within this environment. So we take our talk in the direction of digital twin. Digitizing and breaking down complex information into minute details is what we are going to be talking about right now. Organizing, helping us to organize the information. So you take your smart city in its highest level, breaking down into complex. Complexes will consist of your campuses, your district, and this can be further subdivided into entities. Entities will become your residential building or sport complex, and that can be further subdivided into elements. Elements, you have your substructure, structure, your facade, external facade, your walls, primary elements of your building. And those can be further subdivided into systems as well to give, in this case, it's mechanical extract ventilation system. And the system will now be subdivided into products to have those components, digital components. What we are seeing right now is, giving them common language into common related items. And these are physical assets, and you can allocate, they have categorized, non-physical items as well as regard to space, locations in the entities, and the activities that occur within those spaces as well. And on the other side of the coin, systems and products, you have tools and equipment to maintain products around that area. They have been classified as well. So what we have in front of us right now is UniClass. It's called Unified Classification System, the UK implementation of ISO 666 or so, yeah. So the UniClass has two parts to it. It has the machine readable part and the human description. It's basically a dictionary to be able to describe objects in the built environment. So that's a link right there at the bottom left-hand side of the screen if you want to know more about UniClass. Moving on from there, we have digital twin. We're considering at product level right now, because if we understand how things are organized at product level, we'll be able to comprehend the elements and the complex part of things. So this one is a physical asset with BIM. So we want to compare the digital twin of it. The digital twin of it has 3 types of data. The very first one is your graphic data. Your graphic data consists of the 3D object itself in terms of geometry, size, shape, the location where the object is within the model, and the connections, which it's like an electronic sort of a thing that it can detect interface of another system. So the next type of data is your non-graphic data, which is a structured one. Uniclass, your manufacturer's details, properties of that object. And the third one is the document. This air handling unit, if it's being produced in the factory, there will be a manual, a quality control sort of a thing, manual to show that it's being quality control. This is where such documents will reside. And all these 3 types of information, they reside in the common data environment. And then is the uniclass that's forming the connectivity between the 3 information. And for us to know that graphic data is from the graphic data you extract your drawings. Your non-graphic data will drop your schedules for you. And then the whole 3D virtual model will be used for 3D coordination because of the spatial coordination features that we talked about that the digital object has. And this can, you go forward establishing your sequencing, logistic, and health and safety procedures, your 5D quantity extraction in terms of cost and quantity takeoff, your performance analysis like your energy and energy usage and structural analysis to hone down the best design option, and the information that will be necessary for operation and facility management. It's very important as someone that's managing information in this environment to be able to delineate between these workflows, between the objects, and to even understand how it is organized. This is at product level, and it's the same thing across the board. So we are looking at if we are looking at this physical asset without BIM. The information we looked at earlier on, this is the kind of drawings it will drop, the kind of schedules, if they are produced separately from one another. Then we want to ask ourselves, what do clients really want? What are they really looking for? What are they building? Their needs? Will their building match their image? We want to know that clients want scope, they want time, they want cost, and in the center of it all, they want quality and value. So then how can BIM offer them all this? So considering 3D BIM, because of the 3D visualization that we can do in this environment, the people that are finding it difficult to read 2D drawings, they can be part of this because you can feel the building, they can see the project scheme, coming alive right in front of them. Thereby, it establishes a project scope and it's supporting certainty right there. It's taking care of the risk out to manage it effectively. So moving on from there is the same model that will be used for 4D BIM when element of time is added to it. When element of cost is added to it, you get your 5D BIM. Element of, when you use your performance analysis, then you can hone down the performance to change the design iteration to suit. And for the 7D, for the maintenance and operation of that facility to continue, there are information that's been attached to the BIM object. So what clients are looking for is better buildings to be built quicker and built in a cheaper way too. So the UK 2025 construction strategy states that they want 50% better built, 50% to be built quicker, and 33% to be built cheaper. So touching on from there, we move on to is your career, is your business. BIM for business right now, right in front of us, we have the digital roadmap 2021. Sorry, digital transition, digital roadmap 2021, digital transition for Ireland, for construction sector in Ireland. The roadmap is about the target of 20 reduction by 2021 on public projects like hospitals, schools, 20% reduction in project delivery program, 20% reduction in capital costs, and 20% reduction in construction increase in construction exports. The 4 key pillars that they have in this strategy documents is that, first of all, there has to be a strong leadership in place. This leadership will have to, in any organization or businesses, They have to drive standard, encourage education and training. Upskilling is very important. And investigate on the procurement services, on how the one that will accommodate us building the 3D virtual model before we actually go on construction sites. So it's a very, it's a very nice one for someone that's embarking on the journey of embarking on BIM process journey. This slide will talk about analog model, going from analog static paper-based format into digital model. So from paper to data. So how do we procure? How do we build the virtual building? Okay, do we just go and just cherry pick some technology trend? We've been talking about technology, we talked about process. It's now people are at the center of this. The people that are able to collaborate, they are able to push standards, they are able to take responsibility, to be able to work in the environment. And that all boils down to me and you, that whatever we do, be it we produce information, manage information, exchange information, we have to do it in a digital way. So we touch on standards. Standards are the reason things work. So we use an example of an industry that we can all relate to, which is the traveling industry. Going for holiday, you go on your Google to look for a place of holiday, to look for your tickets. You are interacting with different kind of databases right there, to go for your the cab, the taxi that will be taking you from one place to another. Underneath all this complex transaction is standard, HTML standard that's working. So the industry agreement to share information in a common way is giving us the ability to be able to do what we have to do while you're booking for your holiday, looking for a cheaper ticket, and booking the taxi as well. And it's no different in the construction sector. This is what we're looking for in the construction sector as well. So standard, improves operational excellence. So the picture in front of us is telling us that information management is at the center of what we do. So having a solid and robust information management in place, other kind of management will revolve around it, like asset management or project management or organization management. So then information management in BIM process is governed by this ISO 19650. It's an international standard. The part 1 of it talks about principles, concepts and principles. ISO 19650 part 2 is for information management capital delivery phase. And this can be customized to any country. Like France, we have their own. Ireland, we have their own. UK, we have their own. Nigeria, we have their own. Ghana, we have their own. It can be customized. It's an international document, so it can be used everywhere. So the part 3 of it, part 3, 4, and 5, they're still under development, soon to come out. So the other standards that we have there is asset management, project management, organization management. There's no need to reinvent the wheels if all these standards are already there. It's just for us to use. And one thing again to know that in the BIM ecosystem, you have standard for BIM processes and you have standard for BIM deliverables, such as what we have on the right-hand side. So then project management process, very quickly, is a high-level summary. You need your ISO 19650 to manage information, capital delivery phase. Getting your team together is very important, and making sure that they have BIM capability, that they can use the BIM authoring tool, do BIM coordination and all that. Then the next one is your employer exchange information requirements. Most of the employers, they don't know how to even put this document together. So it's the responsibility of people in the sector as information managers to come alongside the client to help them develop this document. The next bit is the commercial arrangement, the BIM protocol for every team that is on board, scope of services for information management, appointment of information management at design stage and construction stage. How about the PI insurance need to be catered for? Digital plan of work as well. We cannot say we are building virtually, so we won't use the digital plan of work. We have to use it. And the next bit is the BIM execution plan before contract. Is it's a response to what an employer is looking for, answers to how you are going to build what the employer is looking for. And this time you have to prove your IT infrastructure capability, that you are able to do that. So after the contract is awarded, you have your BIM execution post-contract to develop. And the pre-contract one will be part of this. And then the common data environment is established, agreed upon by everyone on board, and your BIM deliverables is established as well. So if we look at the project management process, it's the high level summary using the ISO 19650. So BIM education for everybody, for all of us. What do we need to know? We need to know that apart from your area of specialty, we have to, as a BIM manager, as a BIM coordinator, BIM process documents, we have to know about that. Free BIM review tools, BIM coordination, authoring tools, planning and sequencing is very important, that we have on all of these topics, we have idea of what is going on there. So then is your career, it's your business. We really have learning, we can learn anywhere, everywhere. Online training is there, self-learning, social media, courses can be taken, training is required, learning is new, skills to acquire, knowledge to gain, and ability to continue through experience to develop, competence to gain. So then, digital transformation and your future. We've talked about trends. There is a trend. Positioning ourselves is very crucial and moving with the trend. With BIM technology, we're digitizing our information in the built environment. And the futures, the digital future as envisioned by the European Commission and World Economic Forum, future smart neighborhoods, smart towns, smart cities, is a global issue. So the earlier, the better for us to just position ourselves and move with the trend. Then standards, we touched on standards. Standardization promotes operational excellence. It needs consensus agreement, for that to work. So we're gonna have to ask ourselves, what is our role in the digital construction future? Right, a little bit about the company I work for, Archidoc. We are specialist BIM consultants in Dublin, Ireland. We have 4 key pillars in the in-house production of information where there is skill gaps. We do training on digital tools. We support people on their BIM journey, consultancy, and advice on BIM journey. And that's the details of the founder and the managing director of the company. Ralph Montague is in-house with us today to give us a couple of words of encouragement later on. And then the last one, that's a collaboration sort of a thing coming up with BIM Africa. We want to share this program with you, BIM Coordinators Mentor Program. We have run this all over Europe, over 2,000 participants. It's going to be 1 hour per day over a period of 10 days. Date and time is not yet confirmed. This is to enhance your career. If you make a choice of going in that direction of being a BIM manager, BIM coordinator, or project manager in the BIM ecosystem, this course is for you. Enhance your career in digital construction using ISO 19650. And these are the stuff that we covered over the period of 10 days as to why are we doing this? What is it all about? And how do we go about doing this? 3 types of information that we talked about, we go in depth, talking about them, in relation to workflows and processes. We talk about the common data environment. We check some model authoring tools as well. Model coordination process will be demonstrated. And then in the last days, we'll come back to those documents of employer information requirements, your BIM execution plan. That will be looking at next step to, starting to get courses and do some other stuff to update ourselves as BIM coordinators and BIM manager, and that is coming soon. So I want to use this time to thank everybody for joining in for this time. Hope that information is useful before we go into question and answer. Thank you. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello.
we can hear you. Yes.
Nice one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So, do we have questions on the session?
It might be a bit lecture heavy, but it's just for us to know that, there's a trend in the sector. We can no longer work the way we used to work in silos. We all have to come together to collaborate. So it's a journey. We start somewhere. Positioning ourselves is very important. And then, moving with the trends. So if there's any question.
Okay, while we wait for the questions, can we have Ralph take on his?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Labake. That was a excellent presentation. It's been fantastic to work with Labake over the years, and it's great to see her presenting so well. So I just want to congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, while we're waiting for questions, I just want to give some encouragement to everybody who's on the call. If you're involved in the built environment in any way, whether it's designing or constructing or operating the built environment, I just want to reiterate how important it is, the work that you do, because the built environment supports every aspect of society, where we live, where our children go to school, where we treat people in hospitals, where business and economies are made. So, the built environment is incredibly important. There's lots of need for more infrastructure everywhere around the world. And if you're doing your work in a digital way, obviously that opens up fantastic doors and opportunities to work across geographies, as Labake pointed out, and and to do work in a very efficient way that doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't cost a lot of money, and doesn't create a lot of waste, and also makes the whole environment safer for people to work in. So if you're working in digital construction, you're doing something incredibly important, and you're doing it in a fantastic and efficient way that's benefiting societies and the planet. So encouragement to everybody on the call to continue to pursue your career and your business in digital construction. So I don't know if there's any questions that come up, or if anybody has any particular questions.
So, we have a question. Someone says, can you give some insight on the connection of BIM and integrated project delivery? And then, how can BIM be suited into the context of traditional construction contracts?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can answer that. I mean, the traditional contracts, I might start with traditional contracts, because obviously there's a process where you create design information, and that the information then gets sent to a contractor to look at and give a price, and then obviously it has to be developed further to a point where they can actually physically construct and assemble that building on site. And often there's a lot of errors and deficiencies in that information, and that causes delays and variations and and problems. And I'm sure anybody in the industry realizes and knows about those problems. So yeah, BIM is obviously helping to improve traditional contracts in that it's improving the quality of information and getting things sorted out far earlier before you get to site. So BIM definitely supports traditional contracts, although traditional contracts do hinder BIM a little bit, in that you really want the contractors or the people who construct to be engaged in the design process, but that doesn't happen in a traditional contract because the building gets fully designed before it goes out to tender. So integrated project delivery changes that in that it allows the appointment of the constructors to be engaged in as part of the team very early on in an integrated project delivery process where they can bring their experience to the design process, and designers and contractors and the client can work together in a single contract environment. So obviously that integrated project delivery, really helps get the best out of the BIM process to sort out problems earlier on. So, but yeah, I don't think the type of contract obviously does have an effect, but BIM is beneficial, I'd say, in most contract types.
Thank you, Ralph.
Okay, so another question says, what software should one focus on to be efficient in BIM? Are there softwares that may have been outdated or irrelevant as far as BIM is concerned?
Do you want to take that, Lubake, or?
Yeah, I can hear. What's the question again, please? Hello?
It says, what software should one focus on to be efficient in BIM? Are there softwares that may have been outdated or irrelevant as far as BIM is concerned?
Oh, I can't really hear that question properly.
It's in the chat, but I mean,
Okay.
it depends on your job, I suppose, like what you're doing. You should focus on software that supports the work that you do. So if you're a designer, an architect, or an engineer, you would focus on design software, and if you're a quantity surveyor, you'd focus on yeah. So yeah, software that's relevant and outdated. Obviously, if the software doesn't work with 3D information or BIM, and it works on 2D information, then it's that's not going to be helpful in a BIM process. So carefully consider software before you purchase. But I mean, software really is just a tool. It's like buying the right tool for the right job.
Okay, another question comes and says, in your presentation, you
Yeah.
talked about structural analysis. Yes, you want to respond to that?
I'll say it's the same structural analysis that you do. This is to hunt down the performance of the building in order to tailor the design option. So I don't think it's different. It's not different from analysis and design that you make with the structural engineer. It's now, this is where you now make it within the BIM ecosystem to account for your 6th dimension of BIM.
It's also about testing the design. Structurally, you have a virtual building that you've constructed in software that allows you to test that design structurally and from an energy performance point of view to make sure that it's going to work and it's going to work at an optimal level. So you're not under designing or you're not over designing, but you're getting the best design option, and also to test it within environments. So you can do seismic testing, for instance, if you're in an area where there's earthquakes or and there's specific software that would allow you to test that.
Yeah, I'll take the next question. Someone is asking, how can a small construction consulting firm get BIM training and its possibility of implementation due to registrations? Is it registrations in Nigeria? Firms like us, we come alongside, some of the firms to, come to support them in their BIM journey, the implementation of BIM. So we do all the training. the BIM training to support the implementation of BIM. So I don't understand when you say due to your registrations, is this, does this have to do with Nigerian factor? Yeah, another person is asking whether the presentation will be sent to their email. I'm not sure about that. We have to confirm that with BIM Africa.
Yes, we'll try to share the presentation.
Right, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
How
Yes,
should
I
we
think there's a
manage
new question.
efficiency of product information from the Nigerian?
Okay.
Sorry, I mean due to Nigerian regulation. Okay. I don't know. So another person is asking, how should one manage the efficiency of products information from the Nigerian manufacturers, knowing that borrowed foreign product parameters shoots up all predictions? That's an interesting question. Raf, do you have a word for us regarding that question?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is quite common at the moment where some manufacturers haven't got BIM content that's available, and people are taking product objects from other manufacturers and putting it in their models. But the responsibility at the end of the day is to the person who's creating the models, to make sure that any of the data that's within their model is correct. And yeah, that's nothing new. Designers, architects, engineers have to take responsibility for the information they produce. Even the contractors and subcontractors or specialist contractors who are producing specialist design and construction fabrication information have to take responsibility for the information they produce. So whether you borrow objects from a different supplier and use them in place of a different product, then you'd have to go and change the data within that object as well. That's your responsibility. Or contact your manufacturer and get them to provide you with objects that have the correct data.
Right, thank you, Raf.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think if we have other questions, we may have to us. If you have other questions, please send me via email because we're already eating towards the 1 hour time. Okay, I see there are 2 questions. I probably will take those 2 questions and then we end the session. So the first one, are there limitations to BIM in terms of every civil engineering construction?
Yeah, I don't really understand that question. What sort of limitation? Not that I know of. As far as heavy civil engineering construction is concerned.
Oh, who's going to read this now? Okay.
Yes, and then, okay, the other question says, what are the indicators of measuring level of maturity?
Yeah, just like we said in the presentation, the levels of maturity in BIM, level 0 is when you are using CAD. You are having all your building describing CAD, is level 0. Level 1 is when there's a mix match, like a hybrid approach. You are using a bit of CAD and a bit of BIM. Level 2 is when you are using the full BIM process. But each discipline, they are producing their modules in a separate, to bring them into a federated environment to form a composite model. And level 3 is now integrated model, but we are not there yet. So what is being used in the industry right now is level 2. Level 2 BIM maturity. So it's very important to know the difference between these different levels of maturity.
And in terms of an indicator, like if somebody comes to a meeting with a set of drawings and you ask them, where's your model? And they say, well, you'll have my model next week. Then you know they're not using a full BIM process because they didn't use the model to produce the drawings. So they're using pseudo BIM. Yeah, so that's probably the best indicator of people not using the correct adoption of BIM.
Yes, there's another question there. As a professional registered builder, part of my duty is to prepare buildability and maintainability analysis report at design stages. How can BIM help? The buildability we were talking about, your 4D sequencing. This is where you prove the constructability of the model. After you've gotten your 3D virtual model in place, you add element of time or being plugged into your Primavera or your Microsoft project programming, then you can establish your buildability from there. Maintainability will have to be your 6D, 7D as well, whereby you do all your performance analysis to hunt down the best option for your design, option. So this is how BIM is helping to prove buildability and maintainability analysis at design stage. The next question saying there were no substructures in the presentation. You did not show the use of BIM in designing structures below the ground level. Oh my word.
Well, a substructure is still a structure. I mean, maybe the image didn't show it, but of course you can design the substructures in BIM software, and you can even test those substructures against the site as well. I mean, the ground bearing elements of the site can be put into the model, so you can use BIM to design substructures. We didn't show it in the images, but that can be done.
Okay, there's another question there. Can we get any of the BIM apps directly from you? Or are there any specific recommendations? Not really. You can't get BIM apps from us because you'll have to purchase them from Autodesk.
Or other vendors, yeah.
Yes, or other vendors.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Laki and Ralph, for the session. We really do appreciate it. On behalf of the community, we'd like to appreciate you for the time that you have taken to share your expertise and knowledge with us. And we're sure that there's a lot of knowledge that still needs to go across the region. And we hope that you work with us more. And of course, the program that discussed would deliberate more on that and then involve the management for further decisions. So thank you all for attending this session.
Thank you.
Once again, this is BIM Africa. We're a community of professionals across Africa who are passionate about extending and making sure that the African construction industry adopts and implements BIM. Interestingly, our Research and Development Committee will be publishing the African BIM Report 2020 tomorrow, Friday. We hope that you all will look out for the announcement on our social media platforms and on our website, and you can access the report and share them amongst your colleagues. Once again, thank you all. Do have a wonderful time.
Okay, thank you so much, BIM Africa.
Thank you.